It's all right. You ready to get going?
If whenever you want to go, I'm
All right.
I'm here.
This is Hard Parking, brought to you by Right Hunt and Right Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Coming up on today's show, I recently traveled to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Almost couldn't say that. Albuquerque, New Mexico, to visit my good friend Randy Alameda, or really Randy Arnold, but find out why they call him Alameda. Check out his Gibson guitar collection and the vault he built. Plus, he has two NSXs, first gen and second gen. All that more coming up after this word from Arcus Foundry and SparkForge. Really quick thought. I was shopping the other day, and I get it when people back into their spots. People complain about this all the time on social media, but I get it. Sometimes I back into my spot. But why are we back into our spot when we're at Sam's or Costco? Kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? So quick story for you. A listener lost a big job, missed the call, never saw the DM, probably because he was listening to this podcast. It happens, and it's fixable. Running a business shouldn't mean juggling a dozen apps and missing opportunities. SparkForge helps you reply faster, capture more leads, and get more reviews, all without adding hours to your day. One simple place to handle calls, texts, and social messages so you can focus on the work that pays. It's like finally putting your business on cruise control without losing the steering wheel. One login, one platform, all under your control. Consolidate your tech in one place to save time, money, and headache. The future is here, and it's powered by SparkForge AI from our friends at Arcus Foundry. Jump into a 30-day trial today by using code HARDPARKED at getsparkforge.ai and stop letting yesterday's tech eat tomorrow's profits. So Randy Arnold, I know he's Randy Arnold. Everyone around here knows you as Randy Alameda. We are at an undisclosed location somewhere in Albuquerque. Welcome to the podcast. I've been trying to get you on for a few years.
Well, it's a deep South Valley thing here, where we're at. We had a federal security driving up and down the street every day because when I moved in here 40 years ago, they were making the B-1 bomber motors.
4 years ago or 40?
40 years ago.
So tell us about that.
It was great. There was a federal car driving up and down the street here once an hour, 7 days a week. It was great. And then they had a problem with throwing their solvents out the back door. So they polluted the water, so they had to shut everything down. And then they went away. They closed everything up, put these wells in, supposedly got rid of the contaminants, and then sold the property off. And as you could see, the fence just fell down about a week ago.
I actually noticed that when I was pulling in.
And they're going to set up a catering for the movies. It will be a catering for the movies. That'll be over there. But they'll be coming in from the street south of us, not here. Also have that fence. They say they're going to put up a brick wall. We'll see.
So if people may notice, just behind your shoulder are a few Gibson guitars. That's just it. It's not even, it's so small, it's not even the icing on the cake of what we want to explore today. Because I've known you for a while, and I describe you as, he's this old guy who all he does is play golf, and he's an old rocker, and he's just a fireball, and I make sure I always stop by and say hi when I'm in town. Yes. You are 74 years old this year?
I am 75. I will be 76 in 2 months.
So you're 75. God, where does the time go?
I have no clue. I was born 15 days into 1950.
Which actually rolls into one of the things behind them. We're going to get into the guitars specifically after we do the sit-down interview, so people need to stick around because we're going to go through, including the special vault.
Yeah, that's a great thing that my neighbor had built. My neighbor built that with the free pour in there. And I brought security experts in. They go, oh, no, man, nobody's coming in here. The quickest way through here is through the wall. And they'll have to have a jackhammer.
So tell us about you. Tell us about, there's so many places we can go because we're both car guys. We're both NSX guys.
Well,
I didn't try to race you one year, but I wanted to see where my car was, my old car, and you graciously escorted me out of town. And so that's when I really realized that maybe one day I needed to upgrade. But there's so much about you. There's the cars, there's the music, there's the...
And I financed it all with a medical career.
There's the medical
medical sales career.
And there's a medical sales
career. I was a certified orthopedic physician's assistant. I assisted in the operating room. I saw treated patients.
So what brought you here 40 years ago?
Well, the draft was closing in on me in Missouri, and I knew it was, and I knew I wasn't going to go back to college because all my buddies had too much fun drinking and having fun. So I enlisted. I was a car guy. I was the car wash boy at the Chevy garage in high school, and we had a local drag strip. And that was the drag strip that Dave Despain always talks about. And it's a little place in northeast Missouri. And I thought everybody had Don Garlett's and Chris Karamessinis and that on Saturday night show up at their drag strip. I didn't realize that they were that special. But yeah, I grew up in there, and I became a car guy working at the Chevy deal because I got to drive all the cars after I washed them, which was a big deal. Maybe I only got to drive it around the block, but it was cool, especially when the Corvettes came in. But that was my high school, and then I went to college, and I decided, well, that wasn't going to work, but there was a guy that had he was an Air Force recruiter, and of course he had a blue SS 396, and he was racing at the drag strip, and he said, hey, man, I heard you guys talking about the draft closing in, so hey, here's my card. And it was a real small town, so I knew that things were getting close, and the draft board secretary called me and said, have you made any other plans? Because if you haven't, maybe you should make some now. So I called the Air Force recruiter, and next thing you know, they gave me 6 months worth of medical training and sent me to Clovis.
Where is this?
New Mexico.
Oh.
10 miles out of Texas. And it was a brand new hospital, and it was a great assignment. And I worked the emergency room for almost 4 years. It was a great assignment. And while I was there, I became a patient. I crashed my motorcycle, broke my left leg and my back. And they said for sure I was not going to ever walk again. But on the third day, I passed a little gas, and all the nurses came in and cheered.
Can you take us back through that? I actually have a really good friend of mine right now who just crashed his Ducati a few weeks ago. Hips, his lumbar, his ankle, both arms.
Oh.
I was texting him last night. He says he can't move his toe yet. They said he's going to walk, but keeping those spirits up. And you've been there.
I've been there.
Take us through that.
I never thought, those 3 days, because I knew the surgeon. And I saw him with the 18-gauge needle when he rammed it into my foot in the ER. And I knew that I didn't feel a thing. And he was distraught, and so was I. And it was pretty crazy. Like I said, the nurse came in on the third day, and I farted. And everybody came in and cheered.
What's the correlation between passing gas and walking?
Well, the vagus nerve controls the digestive system and everything below it, and I had bruised that. So it was not working. My digestive, there were no bowel sounds, there was no feeling below the waist. And once I farted, that meant, well, things were starting to work, at least in the digestive system. And so I spent the rest of my time, this was about 4 months before I got out of the military, in rehab, in physical rehab. And I was walking with a cane when I went home on physical leave, and got separated from one of my guitars on the plane, and it got smashed.
Oh, how old were you at this time?
I was 22 when I got out of the military, and I was gonna go to college in Portales, but that didn't work out, and I ended up coming to Albuquerque and applied for unemployment, and they said, go see this guy at the medical school, and the next day I'm working for the Department of Orthopedics, which started up a whole career for me, which was amazing that I was able to do that.
So you tried to collect unemployment, and they said, no way.
Yeah, they said, no, man, you can have unemployment if this guy, Mr. Gibson, over at the university doesn't hire you, then we'll give you unemployment. You know, and I literally had cow shit on my boots, my cowboy boots, had a holy T-shirt on. I'm just going to unemployment, you know. But it was a great career. The Department of Orthopedics helped me throughout my medical career.
How long did you do that?
Well, I try to remember because I had another accident, and I had an accident. Like I said, I broke my back and my left leg, and then when I went to work for New Mexico Orthopedics. It was a great job, but the big corporate people bought the company, and the doctors I worked for said, you know, you might want to get another job, and so I went into orthopedic sales. And
did you ride again, by the way? Were
never
you ever tempted?
Never got on another. I got on the back of one of my lifelong buddies' Harleys a couple of times, but I never got on a motorcycle again, other than just to ride to the grocery store and back. And those were all in Farmington because that's where my buddy lived. But no, I never got on another motorcycle, and I won't.
Especially at this point. But.
Yeah, gosh, I'm so fortunate that I'm sitting here and not sitting in a wheelchair. But
you said you had another accident.
Yeah, I wiped out a Honda 1200, hit a 74 Chevy head on. She turned in front of me, probably going 35 miles an hour, and I suffered a basilar skull fracture, and was unconscious for 24 hours, and then woke up, and I've been fine. But I have had some residual effects from the skull fracture, and because that's quite a rap. But I have no residual problems. I have a little problems with balance, which is probably why I never got on another motorcycle.
Right.
Because I don't have good balance, and that is one thing. And so after that, I couldn't go to work. So I had friends in the music community, and I went to my friend Louis Campos. I said, Louis, I'm starving. I'm not going to make my payment. And he says, well, hell, there was a couple women in here just yesterday looking for a guy. Here's their number. So I called them up, and I went to work for them.
To be clear, they were looking for a musician.
They were looking for a guitar player.
Yeah. I mean, a couple women show up looking for a guy.
And they were looking for a guitar player. And they just fired their guitar player in Santa Fe. So it was my first job as a lead guitar player. And my friend Louis Campos, he said, yeah, you'll do fine. You just go up there and you just do what you do, and you'll do fine.
And at that point, you were still Randy Arnold?
And I was still Randy Arnold. And, they called me Randy Alameda in the 70s because I lived in the last house on Alameda Drive in the North Valley. Right across from the smoke shop and where the buses would turn around. So when my car didn't make it to work, I could get on the bus and it'd take me right to the county hospital.
How convenient.
It was a great place. And I lived there for a couple of years. And then after that, bought a home in Westgate.
How did that become your guitar name?
Because I lived in Alameda. And everybody in the 70s was usually David Red Truck or George whatever, but because I had
mobster names.
And I thought they were going to give me because I drove a 56 Chevy that was purple, they were going to call me Randy Purple Truck. But because I lived in Alameda, they called me Randy Alameda. And the name just stuck. So I had during my whole career in music from after the head injury, I was Randy Alameda. And we toured the entire western United States except for California and Washington. We played every other state and most of the states between Ohio and the Mississippi River.
Why not California or Washington?
They didn't pay. They wanted you to pay. You wanted to go play at the Troubadour? Well, you had to have your management pay to buy you a slot. We weren't going to do that, you know. And it was a great experience, you know. But you just never eat the same thing. You never eat your own cooking. You're always sleeping in somebody else's bed.
Was it always a bad thing?
It was okay. It was good. It was different.
Yeah.
Would I recommend it? No. The hardest part for us being from New Mexico was we couldn't find any decent hot food once we got out of the Southwest. You know, so we would have people send us hot food, chilies and peppers and sauces. Mm-hmm. When we were going to be in a place for 2 weeks, then we would have them send it up to us. And it was a great experience. We played, like I say, nonstop. Many times we would play 8 or 9 shows in a week. You know, we played the University of Idaho at Pocadella. There was a country band, I can't remember their name, but they were national recording artists, and they played first. Then we had a nude streaking race, quarter-mile race, and then we played after that. And at the end of our last song, the skies opened up with lightning and rain. It came down. It was pretty dramatic.
What was it like touring back then? You guys, I assume you had a manager?
We did. We worked for the Good Music Agency, which was in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and he kept us working. And it was great. And if we did well at a place, he made sure when we went back next time we got more money.
Did you guys even, like, for here in Albuquerque, were there any residencies?
There wasn't anything like that. There were bands who played here regularly, but they didn't play every night. And we played 6 nights a week.
But always around different places?
Always in different places. And we were booked by the guy out of Minneapolis, St. Paul. And he flew into town and made some suggestions and before he booked us. And then he attended a couple of shows and said, "Okay, you guys are what I'm looking for."
For quality control.
Yeah, you know, and we were
right?
we were on tour with Eddie Van Halen's cousin had a band called Lion, you know, and they were on there, and there was a band called The News. I wonder what they became. But we actually, our lead guitar player had his girlfriend had been abducted from one of our shows, brutally raped and beaten, and it affected him.
Yeah.
You know, of course that did. He was a local mass murderer here in Albuquerque. His name was William Wayne Gilbert. He killed a couple and two other women.
But not her.
Oh, he killed her, too.
Oh,
he killed her. Abducted her from our show at the bar and took her out by the dump and brutally raped and beaten. And you know, it's just a terrible thing.
Yeah.
You know, but it was that was tough. And then the guy went nuts. You know, of course, the guy, and he lost his voice, and all of a sudden we're on the road, and I'm the only singer.
Lord help you.
Oh, my voice was so shot. It was great when he got his voice back, but he lost his voice when he came back to the murder trial.
Yeah.
You know, it was pretty traumatic. But it was a great career. I loved it. And then after Ashley Pond, that was a local radioactive cesspool in Los Alamos, and that's where the band had initially formed, was there. So that was the name of that band, was Ashley Pond.
How long did you guys play? How long did you tour?
We toured.
And then when was this?
This would have been 1980. because again the head injury occurred in 1980.
I was 4 years old,
and I could not work anymore because I couldn't. I had no balance.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't matter when I was playing the guitar. They just thought, oh hell, he's drunk, no problem. The notes are okay, everything's fine. But yeah, we did that, and I guess we toured until, let me get this right, I think it was 98, 99. I think we stopped touring in 2000. I think it was 2000. I kept playing, but it was just regionally. We didn't go out, and we'd go out and wouldn't see New Mexico for 4 months. And it was a great thing. It was something that I look back on with great fondness.
Where does the music obsession come from?
Because
it's not like you just used to play. We kind of did a pre-tour of this place.
Well, my grandmother, my sainted grandmother, was a Baptist church pianist. That's how I knew her, and my earliest memories are sitting on the pew next to her, and if I misbehaved, I got the knuckle on the forehead. And of course, I'm up there in front of the whole church, so I'm on display, you know.
Yeah.
So it was pretty tough there. But my grandmother had 3 sisters, and they all played musical instruments and went to the community houses. And I was from a town of 325 people in 1950. And everybody, all the sisters had married husbands and stuff, so they didn't play together anymore. But still, when the family reunion would get together, there was nothing but music. And it was a wonderful thing. But I knew it only as piano. And then when I was about 7 years old, I found an old guitar in the farmhouse attic, and it had a hula dancer and a palm tree and kind of an ocean. And I grabbed that old guitar with the rusty strings and ran down and said, "Grandma, what is this?" And she tuned that sucker up and played.
Right there on the spot.
On the spot, and I was stunned. And I said, "Grandmother, will you teach me how to do that?" And she said, "Yes, after you learn how to play the piano."
Oh.
So I spent the next 5 or 6 years learning how to play the piano to meet her satisfaction. And then when it came time for me to get a guitar, she took me to the music store and made sure I got a good instrument.
That started it.
And that started it. And then in junior high school, the kid came up to me and introduced himself as the best drummer I was ever going to meet. And he was 2 years younger. And his mother.
Why you? Because you were known for being a musician?
Because I was known for being a guitar. I was known for playing guitar.
Mm.
And he says, "I understand you play guitar." And I said, "Yes." And he says, "Well, I'm the best damn drummer you ever met." And it turned out he was right. He was also a better guitar player than me, and a better singer, and a songwriter, and he was an inventor too, but that's another story.
Did he go on to be some household name?
No, he never did. He never did, and it was kind of a shame, but he did invent some things, a highly efficient electric motor, and he had several, I think he had 20 patents when he passed. But he was a musician, and he played the bluegrass things up in Durango and Telluride. He'd play those with his band. I think the band he had was called Coal Bank Holler. But we were friends until he passed. But he was right. He was, even though I remember him as a guitar player, he still was the best drummer I ever played with.
All that is amazing to me. I could play by ear barely on some things when I was a little kid, but as far as tuning a guitar and learning that and drumming, I don't know how people could just keep up with the drumming.
Well, my mother played the piano. Of course, she was a Baptist church pianist and organist, and so it was. There was piano. There was a piano and an organ. There was a Hammond organ in the living room in my childhood home. So the music was there, and it was kind of inevitable. The medical stuff just kind of fell out of the coldness of the draft.
Yeah.
In 1970.
When you guys, so you were able to avoid all that getting shipped overseas and all the crazy that
because they sent me to Air Force training, medical training. And once I got through the basic training, they said, okay, this guy can actually...
We need you here.
We need you here. So they gave me a full 6 months worth of training where everybody else got 2, which was great. It also helped me with promotions once I got into the active thing. And once I got through with that, the tech school, then they sent me to Clovis, which I was going, everybody was going, oh, we want to be anywhere but Texas. So I got 10 miles outside of Texas.
Given your history in that, I want to get back to the music in a little bit, but, with the medical, what are some of the things that you were able to see, some of the things that, how you see, veterans now? I think some systems, some cities, some states are better than others in taking care of the veterans. Because I think, not to get overly political here, but you and I have known each other for a while, to where we're pretty unfiltered in the things that we talk about.
Right.
Yeah. Is it as I don't want to say is it as bad as it seems, because I do know some areas are a lot better than the others. But what aren't they telling us?
Well,
based on things you've seen.
Based on things that I've seen, I think there's a severe lack of healthcare providers. And as a perfect example, my normal appointment would have been this month, but they sent me a letter last month saying that it'll be in December, 5 days before Christmas. And so I think that's pretty much par for the course. That's what's happening to our veterans today. It's been
sounds like it's been a problem for a while.
It has been a problem for a while. And I never claimed disability when I got out of the military. I went in after I retired. I went in to see if they would give me discounted medical care, and they had me medically evaluated, and they came back 70% disabled. And I think that's pretty much right on. And I see guys, we have a pretty good VA here, but the other VAs that I've been to, I've attended a couple of my veteran buddies' deaths in other VA hospitals, and it was despicable. That's the only thing I could say. And I think maybe I get treated a little bit better at the VA because of my long work history with the university connection and the VA connection, as I did sell orthopedic implants and devices.
What do they need to do to improve it, in your opinion?
Staff.
Just staff? It's just a staffing issue?
Staff. We've got all these wonderful young physicians that I see come through the University of New Mexico Medical School, which I've been affiliated with since 1974. And they're great physicians. They're physicians for the right reasons. And we can't keep them. They're here and then they're gone. They go someplace where they can make a lot of money. And you can't blame them. New Mexico is the middle of nowhere. Albuquerque is, take a left turn at Albuquerque, and you'll end up in Juarez.
Yeah. If you guys weren't here, I would not be here.
Well, yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. It was, I'm proud of my service. I'm proud of the people that I worked with at the university and at the VA hospital.
Getting back to the music, doing all the touring, kind of rubbing shoulders with other musicians over time. Some fell off, some became somebody or somebodies. Were there multiple, how does it happen? Were there multiple music, I don't want to say festivals, but events where there was just hundreds of bands there? Or?
There was a lot of quote unquote day-long shows or weekend shows where they had multiple bands that I would play. And I was fortunate enough to meet some pretty prominent musicians. And not that I got to know them well, but
Sure.
got to meet them and exchange a few things about equipment or the weather or whatever, you know.
You ever get to play with anybody?
Oh, you know, like I said, played
Or did
with,
anybody get to play with you?
you know,
Randy Alameda.
well, Rick Derringer played with us, you know, in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I had just joined the band and saw this guy in a in a burgundy blazer sitting at the bar. And there was a spot next to him, so I sat down and I said, "Are you Rick Derringer?" And he said, "Yes, sir." And so that was my first night with the band.
Mm-hmm.
And within 2 hours, we're up on stage playing music. I'm up on stage with Mr. Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo, you know, which was pretty incredible.
Especially looking back at it. Huh?
Yeah, looking back at it, it was just marvelous. And we had a bad van crash later that night. There was a snowstorm in Flagstaff, and Rick's sound man broke his leg, and
Oof.
Rick jumped in the one good van we had, and of course me with the medical training, I had to take the sound man to the hospital.
Yeah.
So I missed the
You had to
after
miss
party.
out.
I missed the after party, but the next night the sound man was unable to do it, so our sound man covered for Rick. So we got to go and see the sound check, and it was of course ZZ Top, and with all the animals, with the longhorns and the buffalo that they had on stage with them.
That's
And that
pretty
was
wild.
pretty cool getting to meet those guys. You know, Frank Beard was really very personable. I didn't get to talk with Billy or Dusty much, but Frank was just as approachable as anybody. He was a very nice guy. But yeah, that was crazy. And there were other times when there were musicians that I got to be on the bill with them. You know, I was on the bill with B.B. King.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
That's something that you don't get to say very often. I wasn't the first band, but I was one of the bands before him. You know, I was very fortunate that I was able to pull that off. And then when it looked at just as the band stuff started to go away, you know, that's when I dunkled down and started on the medical thing, going as just as hard as I could go. And of course that led to divorce, and and of course divorce led to me playing music again.
When was the last time you were able to play?
Oh, the last gig I played was in 2019.
It's not too long ago.
Not too long ago.
You ever just pick up, like, which of your guitars do you actually play with versus just look at?
I play all of them. I really like my late 50s Les Paul Specials. They're double cuts. I play slide guitar, so I need that extra little bit of the neck, you know. But those are the ones that I play the most, I think, and that may be just because they're recently acquired in the last 5 to 7 years. My favorite guitar is I have a 2005 Les Paul Standard, which was one of the 25 guitars made by Gibson for Jimmy Page to pick his personal instrument from. I got second pick.
Wow.
I was overwhelmed when I realized that I got second pick. But I was back to Missouri for a family reunion, and I was close enough to Nashville, and I had my son with me, and I said, let's go to Nashville. And I had a friend in Nashville that I stayed with, and so we went to the Gibson showroom, and I said, I looked up at this beautiful, what I thought was a 59 Les Paul, and I said, is that what I think it is? And he says, oh, you're right on the money. That's Jimmy Page's number one. And I said, oh, yeah? And And he said, yeah, that's it. And he wouldn't give me any discount, but he did. He said, if you want a discount, you can go to Guitar Center. They've got a few of these, but not from the run of 25 that we made for Jimmy to pick his instrument from. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I really like that guitar. I really do, and I beat it up. I play slide on it too, But at least I use a glass slide. I used to use metal, but now I use glass. Has a little more subtle tone, not as sharp as metal is.
How many guitars do you have?
28, 29.
What started the obsession to start buying the guitars?
Well, after college, I sold my Hagstrom 12-string and my Super Reverb, and when I went into the military, and I traded the amp for a banjo and an acoustic guitar, and I decided I was gonna be maybe the shakies guy, playing the banjo at the pizza joint, because I'd seen that, thought that was pretty cool. Of course, that didn't last long, and I traded the banjo for a set of polyglass tires for my '68 Camaro pace car.
There you go. There you go.
And I thought it was well worth it. And when I broke my back, they sent me home, and I was walking with a cane, and I had that Gibson guitar that I'd bought in '67, and it made a flight, and I didn't, and it got smashed. That led to me coming to Albuquerque eventually, it was months later, and buying a guitar from my friend Louis Campos, who became my musical mentor for my whole life. He always had faith in me, and when I didn't have a job, he'd say, well, call this person or call that person, and they'd say, oh, Louis sent you? Well, then you're okay. And I do miss him. But I was fortunate enough at the end of his life, and you'll love this, I took him to the Crest in my NSX once a month.
Yeah.
And we'd also go out to the reservation and have a Laguna burger, and
that was
it was really he was a hoot, because he was always a car guy. He was a Beamer guy. I'd bought his wife's BMW after they got a divorce, 2002, 74, 2002.
Did you guys smash it up?
No, I drove that car until it had 247,000 miles on it, and I had replaced the front suspension.
Any electrical problems? You said BMW.
No, had no electrical problems in that car. I did buy a donor vehicle because I needed the suspension was going in the front, so I bought a donor vehicle, and was able to put also take the transmission out and put it in there in the 74. And then I sold the donor vehicle for more money than I paid for it.
So you've been into cars since back in high school.
High school,
working
on the
at
farm.
The car dealership.
I was driving a pickup truck with a hay wagon or a tractor behind me with a block on the brake and the clutch so that my feet could depress it.
What car did you want growing up, Randy?
I always thought it would be a Corvette, but
you look like a Corvette guy.
But and I drove all the Corvettes. There were several Corvette owners that I got to drive their car around the block. But my favorite car up until the NSX was the 1969 pace car, convertible. It just had all the bells and whistles. I'd put a Pioneer tape deck in it and some nice speakers. It was a great car, and I just loved it. And it got totaled while I was in Clovis, but I had it for three years, and it was just great. But one thing about that car was, especially in the '60s, is you met yourself at least once a day. Because every Chevy dealer in America had one or two of those pace cars. And there was 4 of them in Clovis.
And I don't know how big Clovis is, but it doesn't sound like a city that's going to be that big.
Well, Clovis, I think, was about 20,000 people when I got there, and there was at least 16,000 people that worked on the base. Now, part of those people were Clovis population, but it was a TAC fighter base, and we flew a lot of missions out of there.
Why the NSX?
The NSX.
We're NSX
Senna.
guys.
Senna. I had my friend, the drummer, was selling satellite TV.
Mm-hmm.
So I started selling satellite TV. And I'm sitting here watching, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm watching Senna at Suzuka, Senna and Prost. And I'm thinking, this is living. Because I was watching it live.
Yeah.
And it was a big thing. And once again, something that I shared with my friend Michael, the drummer. He was selling satellite TV, and I sold several systems down here. So I made a little money selling it too. But it was watching Formula One on the satellite dishes that got me. And I can remember in the pre-race stuff, which of course there were no commercials. I'm getting a direct feed from Suzuka, and I see this beautiful red car with a black hardtop on it, and Senna gets out of it. And I went, someday, I'd like to have.
It's kind of a different Senna story than you typically hear.
But I saw him drive that car. And it wasn't long after that, there's a YouTube video, it's in early high def, of him wearing a pair of loafers, driving the NSX at Suzuka. And once again, I must have watched that 100 times, if not 1,000, It was just wonderful watching it. And Senna he was my hero. My friends would all come over. On Sunday morning, we'd be up here 4 o'clock in the morning, watching the race from Europe. And it was a terrible day when he lost his life.
Right.
It really affected me. But it was that association with Senna, with that car, and then seeing the high definition video of him driving the car, that really sold me on the car.
Now, did you only have you had 2 first gens?
Just
the one?
I only had the one. And I had a Integra that had 247,000 miles on it when I got rid of it. And I drove it everywhere. I drove it to Seattle. I drove it up and down the coast. I drove it back to Missouri. I drove it to Florida. I drove it everywhere in that car.
Remember the year of your Integra?
And it was a 92 GS with an automatic.
Oh, okay.
So I thought, this car, maybe I should step up to an NSX. So I went out to the Acura dealer. Of course, I knew them already with having worked on my Integra.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I think maybe I'd like to get one of them NSXs. And of course, when you say that,
did they just look at you funny, or?
They looked at me kind of funny, and then I said, I'm looking for one with just a stock one with an automatic, just something I can cruise around in, because it'd be just like my Integra. It wasn't 3 days later they called me and said, well, we've got just exactly what you're looking for, except it's a 5-speed. And I said, I'll take it.
Right.
I didn't even ask how much. And so when they got it on the floor at the dealership, I walked in and I announced who is going to sell me this car. And the owner said, this gentleman here is going to sell you that car.
Was that black and ivory or black and
black? Black and ivory. It was black and ivory, and the owner sent the salesman to do the paperwork, and then the owner, who was an NSX owner himself,
Okay. Yeah.
showed me everything, all the little ins and outs of closing the trunk, and all those little things that you don't know. And I was impressed with the way they handled it, and I loved the car immediately. And when I bought it, it had 60,000 miles on it. I paid $30,000 for it, and it has 90,000 miles on it today. And I've gone through a set of track tires that were on the Fat Fives. I have 2 sets of chrome Fat Fives. I bid on 2 of them on eBay and won them both. But
the chrome ones are terrible,
and they're terrible. The Fat Fives are just absolute. But
the silver ones are nice for some weird reason.
But I didn't. But I was new to it. I had no clue what I was doing, and we went.
Meanwhile, I'm somewhere daydreaming about one
anyway. So after I bought the car, or when I bought the car, they handed me a card of a gentleman named Philippe Bonneau, and his card said NSX Club of New Mexico. Philippe. And I can remember laughing, saying, "Oh, I'm not going to join the car club." But of course, within 30 days, I'm a card-carrying member of the club. And it turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life. And we drove all over New Mexico and southern Colorado in those NSXs, and I just loved every mile that I put on the 91.
What year did you get this thing?
I bought it in, let me get this right.
Ish.
2000.
You're 75, so I'll allow you to be off a year or two.
I want to say I've had it 12 years.
So probably around the same time. So 2011, 2012.
Yes, because I took it to. I went to. That's when I met you. We went to Palm Springs.
Yeah, that was 15.
NS Expo.
Yeah.
And I was the last person that they let register, so I was a last minute registrant. And we drove out there. It was like 5 of us went out. It was just the most wonderful thing, and that's when I met you at Science of Speed. And I think no, I didn't meet you until we got to Palm Springs, but
but then you guys also came through.
And then we came
on
through
a cruise at some point.
And we came through in 2017. We did a cruise where we went over to Arizona and went to Science of Speed, and then came back to Albuquerque. And it was on that trip that they called me and said, "We've got a 2017 NSX for you. We take the saddle interior and no options other than the stereo and wheels." And I said, "Yeah, I'll take it."
Did you have them get it for you, or did you already?
They got it for me. It was on the showroom floor for Hurricane Harvey. So it was in San Antonio or Houston. It was in Houston. So it was inside. It was protected.
Right.
It wasn't flooded at all. But all the other cars were absolutely ruined. So they were under the gun to get all of this insurance stuff. So they didn't want it. So they loved to get rid of the car. So
were you able to get it at a decent price, or did
I
you
paid
have to pay premium?
I bought the car for $145,000.
There you go.
And the list on it was $175,000.
Yep, there you go.
And that's a low option, that's just the interior, the stereo, and I got
There weren't a lot of options.
And there wasn't a lot of options. And I never was thinking that I needed it to sound better, be louder or go faster, because my gosh, the thing is incredibly fast. It's incredibly quick and nimble. With that extra torque vectoring you get with the all-wheel drive, it's really. I have got myself in trouble going to get gas in my 91, thinking that I'm in the 2017, and I'm going into that 90-degree corner a little faster than I should be.
Right.
It's because it is that much quicker through the corners, especially at lower speeds. But could I pick one of them that I like more than the other? I don't think I could.
You could.
Maybe I could.
But they're different, right?
But they're totally different. And I go back to, once again, we saw it the same day, Peter Cunningham get in that black NSX and take those laps around there.
Yep.
And when he got out of that car, it was like a total eclipse of the sun, his smile, when he got out of that car. And it was when he gave the gal from Colorado the ride, and he got out of that car beaming like that. And I said to myself, I think I want to buy one of those. And
sure as shit.
And it was the right time. Some investments that I had made came to fruition, and it was a great purchase. It has been a great car. And do I want to sell it? No. Do I want to modify it? No. My son.
So you still have the first NSX as well?
Yes, I have them both. Had them both there. They're
They're
30
right out
yards.
there?
They're 30 yards away.
Okay, yeah.
They're 30
When
yards
we get done,
away.
we can check those out really quick, and we're also
That
gonna
would
do
be perfectly all right with me.
of
It's
everything else.
kind of a kludge because it is a 75-year-old garages. It's my 75-year-old garage. I'm a piler.
Hey, that's okay. You were telling me earlier that the main part of this residence has been here for a long time.
The main part of this residence has been here since probably 1920, 1930. And it was just a one-room adobe.
Mm-hmm.
And then they added a kitchen and a bathroom. And then they added another room and then a bedroom and a living room. And then that's when I bought the house. And then I put on a 1,000-square-foot addition. I think.
I was gonna say we're sitting in a space that's probably bigger than the rest of the house combined.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
it is. It is. And my neighbor is a contractor and a car guy, so he has done almost all of the work over here, and it didn't matter what he charged me; it was well worth every penny.
we're gonna talk about the best car you've ever had.
Well, the best car I've ever had is the 91 NSX. The second best would be the 92 Integra.
What's the third? The white Accord that's out there?
No.
I know you love that car.
I do love that car because it's got the 6-speed and it's an automatic 6-speed, but it's got the 6-cylinder and it's a 2-door.
Mm-hmm.
And they've only made that till 2017. So I really like that car. And it has got the style. The only thing I don't like is the seats.
Yeah.
They're hard compared to
Why haven't
Acura
you
seats.
switched them out with some other more comfortable Honda seats?
I just haven't. I'm lazy, probably. I probably could do that. I did. The guy, I had a junkyard down here that I went every time my Integra broke down.
Mm-hmm.
He had several of them down there, but he closed that place down and retired. So there's still 4 or 5 Integras down there to be scavenged, but you can't get into the yard anymore.
So you like eBay? You were telling me that earlier.
I
all
like
these little
eBay.
NSX diecasts all over this place.
I bought 3 of these 3 red guitars. I bought off eBay, and they were 2 of them were one owner guitars. I bought them from the original owners in 1960 and 1962.
I was gonna say you gotta go to Facebook Marketplace, man. You'll get those seats. I can promise you that. You don't even have to look for them.
I know. That they'll have them. They'll have them, and I should buy them. I should, and they're it's got a great hard drive. Has every friggin' option I guess that you could get on a Honda Accord, but it's got also 135,000 miles on it now.
Yeah,
because I've driven it all over, and I love the car. I don't hesitate to drive it, and it's quick, handles well, stops, parks easily, and it's small enough. You can get in places that you can't get in a bigger car.
So you've told me offline stories of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and booze, but you don't drink.
I haven't.
I love to drink. When was the last time you drank, and why don't you drink?
I quit drinking in 2008, and I was a tequila drinker. And one of my drummer buddies that I had a band, with 2 drummers and 2 guitar players and a keyboard. You know, we had basically the Allman Brothers, and we drank our share there. And I realized after music that probably wasn't a good idea for me to continue to drink, because we were all affluent and we were buying high dollar booze and drinking it. And in 2008, my 2 tequila drinking buddies moved. Gracias a Dios. And that's when I quit.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I quit.
There was no actual. It's just.
There was no DWI, no accident, none of that stuff. It was just, okay, I need to stop. And I did. And I was successful. And one of my friends, of the 2 guys that moved away, he works with James Cameron.
Like the James Cameron.
Yes, the James Cameron. Yes. He does 3D rendering and shit like that. He worked at Sandia Labs in the micro area, you know. Mm-hmm. So the film industry loved him when he moved to California. You know, he lives. I think he lives in Big Sur and has a wife that speaks 6 languages. You know,
Big Sur is nice. That's a beautiful part. That was a long time ago.
And that was a long time ago. And before, because I had a car between the Integra and the.
Yeah.
I'm trying to even remember what it was, but I had a CLS.
Okay.
Another a 3.0 CLS.
Well, because we went for Hondas.
And it was a great car. It was a great car. And I've had 3 1200 Hondas, and all of them were great cars, and I was able to work on them myself and keep them running. And I was fortunate enough to hang with a couple of Honda mechanics who had raced Civics in Southern California at the dawn of Honda coming to America.
Right.
So they were the ones that really got me driving Hondas. There was 3 brothers, you know, and 2 of them have passed. One of them became one of my best friends, my golfing buddy, and they were all Native American.
I mean, you're 75. You'll be 76 in a couple months. With everything you've been into, the music, the cars, the medical field, the everything, what do you think is something you look back on as, damn, that was amazing?
Well, I think it will always be the music. You know, there's something about playing in front of an electric crowd. There's just something about that it brings something out of me anyway that I didn't even know was there. And so the music is definitely the biggest part of my whole life. And without the music, I think my life would have been a complete, total waste.
Right.
And yes, it was great to have that wonderful job working for the big orthopedic group. It was wonderful selling stuff that I was getting 15 and 20 and 30% commission off of, and people were lined up to buy it. It was a great experience. But as I said, you know, when they said I couldn't take the doctors golfing anymore, I knew that my sales career was over.
You want to tell the podcast people what that means?
Well, when I was working for the large orthopedic group, they sold the group, and my physician called me in and he says, "You need to get another job." And I said, "Sam, what do you mean what did I do?" And he said, "You didn't do anything. We sold the business. You are the highest paid person that doesn't have an MD. Do I need to say anything else?" And I said, "No, you don't." And I called up the 3 guys who'd offered me jobs in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those guys hired me immediately to play golf with his doctors. And I said...
That was your job?
That was my job, was to take the doctors golfing. Because he didn't play golf, and I did. He didn't want to learn how to play golf. And I said, I can't take these people golfing. I can't afford that. And he handed me a credit card.
Pretty good pay?
Huh?
Pretty good pay?
Pretty good pay, yeah. I went through 3 Kia Sportages. And
so now we're up to $40,000.
Yeah, you know, that wasn't much. They were all junk, you know.
Right.
But they were great. They were utility vehicles.
Sure,
They served a purpose. They really did.
I actually used to want a Sportage pretty bad. So
you know, they were great. They were great vehicles, but all 3 of them had a busted exhaust manifold. There was a problem with that, with those motors. So, but yeah, I really did enjoy the sales. It was great, and I got to travel. And one of the companies that I worked for was a golf-oriented company. So I got to play some of the most expensive golf courses in America on the company dollar, because they'd have a national sales convention, and we're at Dafuski Island, which is 1 stop away from Hilton Head.
Yeah. And you still play golf all the time?
I still play golf all the time.
Don't get paid to do it.
I don't get paid to do it. Now I pay to play golf. And I play with 3 pharmacists and a lawyer. One of the pharmacists is also an attorney. and I've played with the same 3 guys for many, many years. And one of the pharmacists is one of my musician buddies from the 70s. And he was also the guy that got my ex-wife into Manx cats, which have no tails. You know, which was, and for a while we had like 6 or 7 Manx cats in my son's bedroom before he was born. But that was one of the things that also was a rift between me and my first wife, my only wife. I'm not looking for a second one.
No?
Not looking. But you never know. I mean, there's been a couple of, you know, I live in a Hispanic neighborhood. I've been here 40 years. So when the wife was gone, everybody knows what happened. The single women in the neighborhood, they all went through me. You know, and I was very fortunate that the one that I really liked, she got sick and died.
Well, that tells you something.
You know, and I really miss her.
Yeah.
I really miss her. And it's funny, I'm with the sound man, living with him, and we go to the Albertsons and get stuff to cook. And I look up at the checkout girl, and I see this Hispanic woman with this beautiful smile and this bubbly personality. And I said to my partner, the sound man, I said, you know, that's what I'm looking for. And I met her a week later at a party in the neighborhood.
Yeah?
And I was smitten. That was all she wrote. You know, and I had 6 or 7 wonderful years with her. She was wonderful. Just was really good for my ego at the time. You know, going through a 25-year relationship with the same woman, and I was just sure that I was going to be with her forever. It was no bigger surprise to anyone than me that I fell in love again. And I did. And at her funeral, her mother said, you know, you were the only man she ever loved.
Wow.
I'm crying right now.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Emotion like that, you can't put a price on that.
Can't.
You cannot. Yeah, she was something. She was something. I really do miss her. And she's been gone. She's been gone a long time.
How long?
11 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been gone 11 years. Yeah, I would have married her, but she didn't want to get married.
Yeah.
I think she knew. I think she knew more than I knew. Because she got sick and she died of hepatitis, and she died 3 or 4 months before they had the cure. You know?
Yeah.
You just don't know. And that teaches you to treasure every moment, if not even every second.
Randy, that's why I'm here, dude. I told you.
That's right.
I said, I'm coming out. We're going to do this.
Yeah. And it's kind of a cleansing for me to say some of these things and talk
Good.
about some of this stuff. You know, I mean, like I said, for those 3 days when I was sure I was going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, that was pretty heavy stuff.
What would you say to my boy Bryce, who's in the hospital right now?
Don't give up. And listen to the doctors. You know, they can do the things they're doing today in orthopedics. It's light years from the stuff I was selling just 15 years ago.
Sure.
You know, and I worked for Johnson & Johnson. I worked for DePuy. I worked for the biggest companies in America. It was a great career. It really was. And when it was over, I was glad it was over.
Sure.
My last experience with ArthroCare, I had briefly talked about that earlier, where I was selling a bunch of spinal wands, and I knew the company was doing something funny with inventory, but I was making money, so I wasn't going to say anything. And then I realized that it was time for me to retire. And my business partner said, well, we're going to have a national sales meeting. Why don't you go, and that'll be your retirement gift, you know. So I went, and they said, oh, well, you sold more of this product than anybody else did. So we want to know why you're selling this stuff and nobody else is selling it. And I said, well, you know, I think it was a good product. And they said, well, we have this new company that we formed to bill for this product. And you've been sitting here through these classes. What do you think? And I looked the president of the company in the eye, and I said, somebody is going to jail. And he got white, and the two vice presidents next to him looked very uncomfortable.
Probably not what they were looking to hear.
That wasn't what they were looking to hear.
But
the punchline is the 3 individuals I was speaking to all got prison sentences.
Jeez.
The president of the company got 20 years, and the other 2 guys got 6 and 4 years because they were defrauding the government.
You know, not to go down that rabbit hole, but I don't know if I had sent it to you, and I can send it after this, but very recently, they've been busting all these companies for doing just that. We're talking billions of dollars.
Right. And they're finally realizing that all of these medical companies have been doing this. Mm-hmm. They park inventory someplace, and then it looks like it's been sold. And then at the end of the year, consolidation, well, where did this go? And it's obviously they're selling stuff that they shouldn't be selling. I mean, it's illegal.
Yeah.
You know, and as a salesperson, I didn't realize what was going on at first. But when they replaced all my inventory, and then I went to which was ready to expire, you know, that was going to be several $1,000s that I was going to eat. So when they offered me the opportunity to get out of Dodge, I did.
Sure.
And I'm glad I did, and I've never looked back.
Yep.
And that was my last corporate function, was telling that gentleman that he probably was in trouble.
Want to talk about cars and guitars?
Sure.
We're going to go around and we're going to do the second part of the video. We're going to point at some cool shit.
Okay.
But for those people who are listening, instead of watching the video, which I keep telling people they need to start watching these videos, but if you're listening, the rest of it, we're going to be walking around and Randy's going to be telling us about some of the stuff we're seeing. How many guitars did you say you had?
I think I have 28.
Could you put a value on those? Today, not what you bought them for, but just today.
It's probably I've got. I don't know what that Jimmy Page is worth, but I'll bet I wouldn't sell it.
Sure.
But I'm going to guess that it's probably worth 30 to 40 grand.
That's just one of them.
And that's just one.
Because you've built what's behind me?
I built a guitar vault.
Guitar vault.
My neighbor, the builder, had just remodeled a pawn shop. And one of the things that they did was they drew up a safe room. So it was really easy to use those plans and translate them to sticking it in the corner of the house that we'd already, and we paid for an architect to draw it up and everything, and we went through all the right things, getting the permits and all that stuff. It's great, and the best thing that I've done since I've been here is I put solar up. And I did the solar in 2012. So it's long since paid for itself.
Well, let's take a look at it.
Sure.
Okay, Randy, what are we looking at here? First off, I have a question for you. Want to explain what this is?
Well, that's my dear friend Christian's leatherwork. He did the SRV when he was living in Oak Cliff. And what that's my initials, RA, and my ruling planet being Saturn. So he made those custom covers for me in the 2000s. And I'm very pleased with how they are. Of course, I don't use big amps anymore. So
what's the thing that nobody would actually know about who made those?
It's Christian Brooks, who did the Stevie Ray Vaughan SRV strap.
There you go.
He went to high school with Stevie Ray. This is a 1976 Gibson Explorer.
This white one here? White and brown?
The natural mahogany with the white pickguard. They made a run of Firebirds, Explorers, and Flying Vs. And I bought it in 1976 from Maynard's Music in Old Town. And as I said earlier, my dear friend Tim Pierce, studio musician in Los Angeles, I used to fight him for fret time. I'd go in there and he'd be playing it, or I'd be playing it and he'd walk in.
Tell us the significance of that name.
Timmy Pierce is probably the most recorded guitarist in modern history. He was the guy in the bowler hat on Jesse's Girl at the dawn of MTV. This is a 1994 Gibson Special, Les Paul Special, in what they refer to as TV yellow. This is one of 300 that they made in celebration of Gibson's 100th year. This actually left the factory on my birthday in 1994, and somehow I bought it randomly on eBay. This is a 2005 Jimmy Page Les Paul standard. This is one of the 25 guitars that Gibson made for Jimmy Page to pick his personal instrument from. I was fortunate enough that I was the second guy through the door.
Sure.
And I bought the second one.
It's the one you talked about earlier.
And it is an unbelievable guitar. It has some Jimmy Page tweaks on it that really make you go, oh, that's how he gets that sound. Because this has a split coil here and a coil tap.
It's really quite the instrument. It is a 1959 Les Paul Special.
What's the difference between that one and the one right there next to it?
This has P90 pickups. They're single coil, and they have a little bit more bite. Since I'm a slide guitar player, I like that. And see, I can turn this into a single coil here and get that same bite off of this Les Paul. But the 59s had a manufacturing defect because the neck stopped right at the body. So most of them snapped off during play. 1 year later, in 1960, they had moved the neck in a finger's worth into the body, and that corrected most of the problems. So this is a 1960. Both of these guitars were one owner guitars. The same person owned them. This one here is a 1962 Les Paul Standard. It also is a one owner guitar. I bought it from the original owner, whose son learned how to play and did change out the pickups to EMGs, but changed them all back. So it is exactly as it came from the factory in 1962. And I think this one's probably worth 35, maybe 40 grand. These 20. I can't place a value on that Jimmy Page.
Sure.
I don't know. The Gibson Explorer from 1976, it's probably $4,000 to $7,000. And the limited edition from 1994, the centennial year, maybe $4,000, because they were pretty special guitars.
All right, so we're in the vault.
We're in the vault.
We're in the vaults.
With all my dead people over here, you know, Clapton's not dead yet, and then here's a few shots of me and Newport Beach Hooters.
Nice.
And obviously I'm into Escher.
What does it take to get into the vault? With the different pictures, and sometimes there's articles of clothing, there's some car stuff in here. How do you decide?
Something that means something to me. You know, like the Jeff Beck bag.
Mm-hmm.
We got to sit there and watch sound check. And we were, you know, in the third row. It was fabulous, you know, and you could hear him breathing. It was fabulous. You know, and of course the shot of me and Billy and Dusty there. That was something I was pretty proud of.
All right, what do we have sitting in front of us right here on the floor?
This is a 1964 SG Special.
Why is it in here?
One owner. As you can see, it has a little honest wear on the back of it. It's in here because I wanted, and I'm still trying to have, a Gibson from every year from 1959 to, from 1958 to 1968. I have a 68 SG over here. It's in one of these cases. There's 3 SG cases there. So I have to keep labels on the ones, and I haven't labeled all of the cases yet. Well, I think it has to do with the fact that I play golf 3 times a week. You know, it does have that. And I have a couple of acoustic guitars back here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I see electric everywhere.
I have a Gibson here. It is probably my nicest acoustic guitar, and I will have to take it out of the vault to show it to you. But this guitar is what Elvis used, not this very guitar, but one like it, on his comeback special.
How'd this one get in there? What's its story?
Well, I saw an ad for this guitar in the Albuquerque paper, and I went to see it, and I noticed that it had these cracks in the ebony here.
Mm-hmm.
So I called up my friend Louie, the guitar owner, the guitar store owner, told him what I had. The guy wanted $450 for it. It's a 1973 Dove. It was 1974. The guy who owned it, his father owned a bar in Roswell. And I was able to get it for $350 because that piece cost $150 from Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
I've never replaced it.
Yeah.
And this guitar is one of the sweetest sounding guitars on the planet. It's probably not in tune. I need to tune it up, but this is a very special instrument. I have never found one that has this kind of inlay. See that inlay? That's all wood inlay, all individual pieces of wood.
Oh, wow.
And then the book matches. So this piece of wood was the same as this piece at one time.
And it's crazy because the phone isn't even capturing the richness and the deepness of that red.
Oh yeah. And this is the loudest acoustic guitar I've ever played. So I played this at Molly's. Molly had a liquor store about half the size of this room. Then she built a beautiful bar. And my friend Mike and I and my friend David Redtruck, we were the first people to play in the bar. And my friend Michael had a Gibson Hummingbird, which is like a step down from the Dove. And the Dove is like a step down from the Super Jumbo. But this is one of Gibson's most expensive instruments. And it's in 1973. And I bought it for $350. And it sold new for $1,500 in 1973. Today, this instrument is $5,000 to $10,000. I would say it is my favorite acoustic instrument I've ever played. The instrument is a 1965 Gibson SG Standard. It, at one time, was in 9 separate pieces. After riding through a tail-end collision, it was in the trunk.
So where does one go to rebuild a guitar?
You have to find, it's a very special kind of person who can take an instrument this was in 9 pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, there's breaks across here. There was a severe break here. This was in 3 or 4 pieces. But it's we have here a real craftsman who did this. He said it wasn't worth doing it. I said, I don't care what it costs, fix it for me anyway. It means that much to me. I bought this guitar for $60 in 1974 with none of the hardware, none of the stuff, no pick guard on it. I just bought the guitar for $60. So I put all new hardware on it, and it was my favorite guitar.
How much was this thing to restore?
It was $600 to get it restored, and that was a bargain at twice the price. If this were an undamaged 1965 SG, you're looking at $10,000 to $15,000, maybe even $20,000. You know, I bought it for, like I said, $60 $60 in a box from the bass player. You know, and it's been my go-to guitar ever since. But this would be my favorite, and it just roars. And it has a patent, a PAF here, and a patent number. And guitar player aficionados knows that those two are the most desirable Gibson pickups of the 60s. As I say, this one is a T-bucker, and then this one is not. So this one is the old one, and this one is the T-bucker.
So this is the one, huh?
Oh yeah, this was my favorite guitar. It was always mine. It was always my favorite, and it doesn't weigh anything. It doesn't weigh. It's really lightweight. It's actually a 2019 in the rare color of Pelham blue. And this will take you back. There was a TV show that starred Paul Revere and the Raiders. And Paul's guitar player had a blue SG like this.
It's a beautiful
And
color.
I always wanted one. So in 19, Gibson made these in 2 different colors. And believe it or not, this was $1,800 including shipping. And it just absolutely screams. I replaced the Gibson pickups with Lawlers. And they are high dollar custom pickups. And I converted it to original wiring, which this had a circuit board in here. So I got a modern guitar with antique wiring and antique pickups. So it just barks like at the moon, for sure. It's just a great guitar. Firebird from 2013,
Which one is that?
the biggest case, the one next to the one.
Right next to the yellow sticker?
Yeah, right next to the yellow sticker. I called Gibson. After I bought the guitar, I became friends with a couple guys at Gibson.
I'm sure.
Because you spend $10,000 to answer your phone.
Right.
You know, so I called them in 2008 and I said, Winter guitar. And there's the Gibson ad right there in the corner for the Johnny Winter guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I said, and I was at the NAMM show, which is, you know, like the Carmel show for cars. I'm at the NAMM show. And I'm going, well, how much is this guitar? And they say, well, that guitar is going to be $11,000. And I said, damn, that's a lot of money. And I'm sitting there playing this guitar at the NAMM show. And I hear this guy behind me going, that Firebird sounds pretty damn good. And it was Uli Jan Roth, who took the guitar out of my hands and immediately grabbed the next Gibson rep, and that guitar was gone.
Damn.
So I sold that one for Gibson to Uli Jan Roth. And then I got home and I called Gibson. I said, you know, you sons of bitches, blah, blah, blah. And that was too much fucking money, by God. And he says, well, you know, those were a special run of Johnny Winter guitars, blah, 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 you know. And we've already made the only ones we're going to make. He says, but I don't have any on the showroom floor. Can I make you one? So I got that one made.
Nice.
And it is everything but the paperwork. It's a Johnny Winter Firebird. And it barks, it barks, it just screams. But it also weighs 15 pounds.
So we're looking at your 2017 NSX and your 1990. This is a 91, right?
It's a 91. It has the 95 wheels, aren't they? Or are they 96 wheels?
They're 90, technically 94 plus.
94 plus.
Yeah.
And I bought those. I went to Cars and Coffee in Santa Fe, and the Santa Fe paper had those wheels in there. And I thought that Chris had told me he was going to sell his. So I called Chris and said, are those your wheels in the paper? He says, no. So I called the guy, went over there. Typical story. I got the book. I got the wheels. I was going to get the car. And the wife said, later for you.
Mm,
So, would you like the book with the wheels?
great.
So I bought the wheels for $600.
Nice.
And then my neighbor refinished them. God, he's been great for me. He really has. And did you see the Gibson?
Oh, yeah.
There's never been a better time to get a Gibson. And then there's one of my blues, All-Star Blues Jam with my name in lights.
Randy Alameda. Every Wednesday at the Dry Gulch Brewing Company and Grill.
We had great food and we had good beer. It was a great gig.
Those are my favorite wheels for the first gen, by the way.
I like mine too. And because they've got the two-tone, you know, they got the smooth here.
Yeah, it's polished. It's
And-
silver, but you have the dual and you're polished.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And
And it glistens when you drive.
he did a great job when he did these. He went online and looked at a lot of them and then said, okay, I'll fix these for him. And he's refinished several sets of wheels. He did them for my BMW too. Boy, they were great.
Yeah.
Once he got those done, and they were just the plain BMW wheels, but they had that sparkle like you're talking about there.
When do you decide between these two what you're going to drive?
Since I've got 90,000 miles on this one here, it's usually this one. But this one is so much fun to drive. And people just go crazy, as you know, every time I park it.
Yeah.
People are going, wow, where did you find this? And I say the same thing.
In the garage?
Be careful what you wish for at the Acura dealer.
Hey.
Because both of these were just that. I said, I might like 191. Well, they had one for me in 3 days. Oh, would you like to buy a 2017 for 30 grand off? Yes, as a matter of fact, I would. What a deal this is. This is my third set of Michelins. But I think it's got 34,000 miles on it now.
You drive it? Yep.
I drive it, yeah. Well, and Roby does too. And I know, and I tell him to do that.
Thanks for showing us your cars and your guitars. Hey guys, thanks for checking out the show. If you like what you heard, or even if you didn't like what you heard, if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening to it on traditional podcast media, go ahead and go over to YouTube and hit that like button. And please subscribe. I'm trying to move everything to YouTube. It's been a lot of good time trying to make these videos. But anyway, so with that being said, I do want to thank the show's sponsors, Right Honda, Right Toyota, Toyota of Huntington Beach, I got to read this, Claremont Toyota, and Gardenia Honda. Can't forget ArcusFoundry.com. And of course, AutoCannon, officially licensed Honda and Acura gear. I want to thank our Patreon business supporters, Kuya Automotive out of Winter Garden, Florida, Automotive Specialty Tool out of Owings Mills, Maryland, The Lucky Brakes, Sports Breakers out of Caledonia, Michigan, Big House Small Home Design out of Ashburn, Virginia, and Traverse City, Michigan, and the Shade Bros out of Boise, Idaho. If you're in a position to help the podcast upgrade, feel free to either become a member on YouTube, so you get episodes early when they're ready early, which isn't very often, or you can join the Patreon for as little as $3 a month. You get access to bonus audio, bonus video, and exclusive swag, as well as all the normal swag that comes out without having to pay for it. Special shout out to Mark Stoneman, Catherine Cox, Eddie Ramos, Richard Graves, Byron Jones, Bo Jung, Alex Comita, Andrew Bunkley, and Dre Mullins for supporting the show. If you want to email the show, info@hardparking.com. Follow me on Instagram @Pfenning. Follow the show @hardparkingpod. I already told you to subscribe via YouTube, and I meant it.
Shut up!